Hello YouTube, it's Rafael here from xxRafael Productions, and in this video we're going to mess around with switches, and we're going to be using Java for this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and also, I guess, explain what these are. So once we go ahead and first type it out, so I will type out the code and I will explain as I do it. So let's go ahead and type in an integer. So we'll be using two examples. So let's do day. And let's perhaps set the value to 1. So we're going to declare an integer and set the value to 1. And we're also going to declare a string. And this will say, let's do string example equals hey. So don't worry about the string for now, because what we'll be doing is focusing first on the integer. We will do the string as the next example, but let's go ahead and add in a comment to distinguish this from the next switch statement. So let's go ahead and type in switch, and then bracket, and type in day, which is whatever we called our integer. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in a lot of cases. So do case. Since we're dealing with an integer case, the value has to be a number. So case 1. Let's go ahead and type in system.out the print line. One day is when you are bored, I guess you could say. What doesn't really matter what you put down, just as long as something is outputted. And let's go ahead and copy and paste this, so we don't have to do the entire days of the week, just like kind of maybe do until Thursday. And make sure you replace these at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now I will explain all these after I'm done typing it out. Just for now, just type in what I'm typing. So Tuesday is when you run to the shops. Maybe you can do Wednesday is when you are most productive. Thursday is when you are going to the gym. And then now for the last one, we're going to add in default system.out.println to print again the console, and this will say not a valid option. Okay, so like I said before, we're only going to be focusing first on the integers. So I'm actually going to space it out so you can distinguish, all right? So we are focusing on the integers. Don't worry about the string. That is for the next example. But let's go ahead and break down what we have typed. So if, just like how we usually use if-else statements, this can be a more efficient way to manage the way you want your app to function. So basically what we do here is we're going to be saying, so let me go ahead and run this application. So I'm going to run the program right now. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. Now if you notice, it will say in the console, Monday is when you are bored. So that is because we have set our integer value to 1. So let's go ahead and change that to maybe, let's say 3, for example. So I'm going to go ahead and Command S to save. I'm going to press play again. And now if I play it, it will say Wednesday is when you're most productive. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to check all these cases, and whatever matches is whatever code that you have in between here is what's going to run. So now let's go ahead and tell you why we needed these breaks. Now if you may have noticed, our default, which is what happens when none of these are true, so none of these cases run, it will immediately go to default. Now if you notice that the default case doesn't need a break, that is because not every case needs a break. So if no break appears, basically the flow of control, it will continue following through the subsequent cases. So each subsequent one will continue if there's no break between each one until it reaches another break. Okay, so basically once a break is reached, that's the time it will finally stop. Now let's go ahead and show you what happens if let's say if I go ahead and change integers. So notice how I have 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So let's go ahead and change the integer to say 6, for example. Let's go ahead and run the application again. I want you to pay attention to what happens. So it will say not a valid option, because with this, it is not one of these. These cases don't run. None of them run. So it will default to any outlier that is not part of these. It will go ahead and say not a valid option. So I can go ahead and do 19, which is again not an option. I'm going to go ahead and run the program. It should output the same thing. So this can be very useful if, let's say, you're trying to design like an application or a game in with Java, and you want like certain options, like let's say well, let's go ahead and say you have a player and you're trying to look for a player with a matching username, for example, or a matching value, and then you can use these to run specific code. Now you can also do something like an if statement, else statement, which I will also demonstrate after I do both examples. So now that we're done with the integer, let's go ahead and also work with our string. So now we can space this out and do for the string, and then let's do switch, and then let's do string example. Okay, so whatever you called this has to match whatever you called your initial string, okay, which we declared it. And now, for now, it says hey, so don't worry about that because we will play around with the string itself in a minute. So now we are going to distinguish. Don't worry about these now because the integer, I've already gone through that. So you can also add more if you want to. Like, let's say you can add case 5 and you can do Friday is when you're going home again, I guess. And then if you run the program with your integer set to 5, it should output this last one. And be sure to not forget the break as well, okay? But let's go ahead and focus now on the string. So let's do also, so I'm gonna go ahead and type it all out again. Let's go ahead and type, let's see, case hey. Now I'll explain why I'm going to use these instead of a number. So this is case hey. System did out the print line. Let's see, you have typed hey in. Like I said before, just copy what I'm doing down, and I will again go through this in a minute. So I'm gonna go. So case, what is it? Now, keep in mind, you don't have to use these exact strings, but you will have to use them when you have to use whatever you typed in when you're going to edit this value here, which I'll go through that later. System did out the print line. Let's see, what is it? I am dead, for example. Now, do the next one, case. This is heaven. Oh, also, I almost forgot. Don't forget the break in between, okay? So, you go ahead and do the last one. System did out the print line. Let's go ahead and say, yes, you are in the afterlife. And then we can, again, add in a default. Any of the case. Alright, so let's go ahead. Oops, we gotta add in the break. So that was saying you gotta actually analyze the code, because it's very easy to make small mistakes like this. So make sure break is in after all of them, and let's go ahead and use this as an example. So right now we have our string set to hey, and if we are to go ahead and run it right now, so run our program. Now, the first one is regarding the first switch. So let me go ahead. I can actually get rid of this right now. Well, actually no, we'll get rid of that later actually. So that is the first one. Now if you notice, it says you have typed hey in because our string, which says hey over here, matches our case where it's also looking for that matching string. So if I were to do like, let's copy and paste this just so that I don't accidentally make an error. We can copy and paste that there, and let's go ahead and press run again. And the next one should say I am dead because it matches our string that we put for the case, and it will also print on the console I am dead, alright? But let's go ahead and run our default. So that's going to be something that doesn't match any of these. Let's go ahead and let's say, what should I do? I guess Rafael, that's my name, so I'm going to use that. I'll press run, and you should clearly see that because my Rafael name didn't match any of the cases, it will say the string you entered didn't match any of the cases. But let's go ahead and demonstrate. So I'm not going to change my string, which has my name on it. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this just to save us some time. Let's go ahead and let's see, put Rafael on that thing. Let's go ahead and say Rafael is here. So keep in mind, I didn't change anything on the string, but let's go ahead and run the program again. And now it should say Rafael is here instead of immediately defaulting to the string you entered didn't match any of the cases, because now it is matching a case, which is Rafael over here. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully you get the logic by now about how the switch just work. And let's go ahead and kind of like, we can get rid of this because I want to focus on the integer. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. Oops, wait, I have to get rid of this bracket because I removed the entire code. Now let's go ahead and, like I said before, I would show you an example. I'm going to recreate this with if else, okay? So let's go ahead and do that right now. So this is going to be recreating the above with if and else statements. Okay, so if you have already gone the switch down, you don't have to continue watching, but this is just an example just so I can show you another way you can get something like this. So we're going to be focusing on the integers. So right now, let's go ahead and do if. So we called our integer day equals 1. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this exact thing. We don't need to copy the break, just copy down the system.out the print line, which will print in the console. And we only went up to day 5, so case 5 I should say. So let's go copy paste that until we get to number 5. Copy and paste it, Command C and Command V. Gonna get rid of these right here. And then I also want to make sure I get the strings exactly the way I want it to be. So, oops, I could get rid of that. Alright, now let's go look for Wednesday's one, and let's go ahead and copy that to day 3. 4 should be Thursdays when you're going to the gym. So let's go ahead and do that. And lastly, we want Fridays. Let's go ahead and do that right here as well. Alright. Oh, oops, get rid of the first one. There we go. Okay, now we can do that if, or we can also do else if, well actually I think that's a better way to do it, else if for these, and then finally we can do else by itself, system.out the print line, and this should say, what did we put last time? Not a valid option, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, now let's go ahead. So we've recreated the top switch. Let's go, and I'm going to disable the first one so that I can show you how the code works. I'm going to comment all that out. And now let's go ahead and set our integer to, let's say, day 3, for example. So keep in mind, I've already commented the original code out, so it should only be running the if-else statements. So let's go ahead and run our program. It will say Wednesday is when you are most productive. And now let's do something. Let's do day 13, for example, which is not in the else if and if statements. It should say not a valid option because else will encompass all the other values that are not in this range of numbers. All right. So let's go ahead and comment this one out, and let me go ahead and uncomment again this code over here. Let's set that to day 4, and it should run case number 4, which will say Thursdays when you're going to the gym. And there you have it. So, like I said before, these really come down to personal preference. This code here, the exact same code is gonna execute the same as the switch statement does. Now, you can use these for games, again, like I said before, or programs that you're trying to run if you want it to select depending on what matches the string or what matches an integer value. But hopefully this video helped you out, and hopefully now you know how to use switches. And if this method is not efficient, you can also use these alternate methods like if else. There are plenty other ways you can achieve the same results like this, and hopefully this video helped you out in terms of programming, and I will see you in my next video. Rafael out.